Hey everyone, and welcome to this GitKraken workshop. So, this workshop is about a more perfect handoff in developer workflow steps. And so, this workshop is hosted by myself, but also Jeff Chanella, our director of product here at GitKraken. This workshop is great for anyone looking to, more elegantly switch between different parts of, creating your branches, working with your issues, looking at your remote hosting service like GitHub, Bitbucket, Azure DevOps, GitLab. If you're using any of those, you're in the right place. Before we dive into the workshop proper, we do invite you to like and subscribe. It does help our channel out. And if you find this workshop helpful, we invite you to share it with someone else who also might enjoy learning a little bit more about what GitKraken can do for them. Without further ado, let's dive into the workshop. Well, welcome everyone. If you thank you so much for taking the time to join us in our workshop today. You are here for a 30-minute workshop. Here for free. You're welcome to share this recording with anyone on your team. We have a more perfect handoff in developer workflow steps. And I'm joined here today by my colleague, Jeff Chanella, who is our director of product. He'll be kicking off and showing you, we'll have a presentation about Gitkraken.dev and a few other really cool tools that you can use to hopefully transition between your workflow steps much more easily. And then I'm Jonathan Silva. If you're on our YouTube channel, you probably see my face or voice pretty often. I create a lot of the training content here, and I'm happy to be one of your hosts here today. Okay, so here's what's ahead. Before I get too far, I do want to point out that we will be using the chat and the Q&A features in the bottom right corner. So for those of you who are joining us live, that's one big benefit to being here live. You do get the opportunity to ask questions to us, and we're more than happy to answer those towards the end of today's workshop. Please go to the Q&A widget in the bottom right corner to enter questions that you have as we go through today's workshop. And we'll take the time to answer those towards the very end. We'll be using the chat mostly if you're experiencing any technical issues. Jeremy from the GitKraken team is here to help moderate the chat and also help us with the Q&A. So again, we'll be using the Q&A widget in the bottom right corner for any questions that you have. Otherwise, here's what's ahead for the 30-minute workshop. What is Gitkraken.dev? If you've never heard of it, it's going to be the key component that we'll be using to help provide a more perfect workflow in your developer, a more perfect handoff, in your developer workflow. And then we'll be getting into the demo. We have just a very few slides here, and then we'll get straight into the nitty-gritty details. Finally, we also wanted to, provide something for the CLI users out there. If you're a CLI user, if you have a terminal that you prefer to use, we have something just for you that I think will help combine some of the themes that we have here for you today. Okay, finally, I love reminding people, if you have a GitKraken account, then you have access to all of these tools. So we're most famous for GitKraken Client, but if you have a GitKraken account, you also have access to GitLens for VS Code. You have access to the GitKraken CLI, the GitKraken browser extension, and Gitkraken.dev. These are all included with your license. Even if you're just using the free version, you're able to use all of these tools as well. If you have a license, and you get to use the paid features as well. So I just want to put that out there in case you didn't know. If you have a GitKraken account, these are all the things that you have access to. Okay, with that, I'll hand it off to Jeff.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks everybody for being here. My name is Jeff Chanella. I'm a product director here at GitKraken, and I'm going to move through these slides pretty quick, but just so we can get straight to the demo, wanted to sort of lay out some of our things we see typically with developer workflows, challenges that teams have faced, developers have faced as they kind of move through and do their work on a daily basis. We're trying to stay aware of a lot of these issues that come up, delayed collaboration being one of them. Really often when developers have shared some of the process things they work through, they wind up with a PR. And if they had just had a conversation or been aware of like how the change was approached beforehand, it could have saved a lot of iteration or slowed down time on the review process for that PR, which leads to those PR delays. Can also lead to merge conflicts. That's definitely one of the big challenges that are faced out there. When you're working on code, obviously, typically you're not working alone very frequently, and things change. Base branches, get updated, you wind up behind, and that can cause merge conflicts or delays in that PR review process. On top of this, things like where changes exist and what's happening can lead to sort of a lack of visibility across these different surfaces or places where your developer and teammates are making changes and pushing. And then there's always like that old context switching trope. Context switching is necessary. Context switching is going to happen, but that's some of the things that we are trying to resolve are making that a little bit more seamless, making it a little bit easier to move between the different tools and surfaces they use on a daily basis. So just at a high level, you could slip the next slide, Jonathan. So yeah, with all those things in mind, what we're trying to do is move that collaboration process sooner in the workflow. We have a couple of different things that I'm going to be showing off around a service we call Cloud Patches, which is essentially going to allow you to collaborate around code. Before the PR, a lot of making the PR process efficient with our tools is centered around this idea of shifting left, moving, getting changes, getting ideas and changes between developers happening sooner, right? We would love to have the PR be almost like an afterthought, like it's past our checks, we can merge it in because I don't need to try to understand the code. I actually have been a part of at a high level where the change is coming from, and I can understand it more quickly. And then obviously with these changes that come up and all of that, we want to surface those things visibly to different people. One of the ways we do that is with our focus view, so I'll be touching on that. And then, as I mentioned before, minimize context switching, but also enhancing the context switching that you have to do, right? Some people prefer to actually review on GitHub or manage their PR list on GitHub. And some people like to have that stuff embedded in their IDE or accessible in different tools. So we try to make and accommodate both of those types of use cases. Awesome. So I'll get right into the first demo, where I'm going to kick off with looking at Gitkraken.dev. Let's share my screen here. And can everybody see it? I'm going to go ahead and do a check. Jonathan, can you see my screen?
I can see it. Maybe bump up the zoom a bit.
Yes, we will do that.
I think that's better. There we go.
Okay. So Gitkraken.dev, Jonathan mentioned this before. I asked my devs, I'm going to use the staging environment because it just has a little bit of some extra things that are not in production right now. But for the most part, what you see in staging is in production. And they promised me that things will be stable. They're not going to push something and break something for the next hour. So I'm going to hold them to that, although I can't make any promises. What we have here for Gitkraken.dev, this is our web-based browser platform. Really, it's very helpful in a lot of different ways. We are going to be talking about the focus view, but at a high level, essentially Gitkraken.dev is going to be everything and anything you might want to do or manage with your Gitkraken account or subscription or organization. So we're going to have the basic administration features in here, like user and team management, subscription management. These are all, like I said, we're in preview now. So some of this is, I'm not going to dive in, but some of this is not fully available as what you might find on our current account site, which is at app.gitkraken.com. But we are in the process of porting all this over. And then there's also some useful settings and configurations for your organization, things that might be helpful on certain plans where you can control your AI settings, opting in and out for different team members in that organization, as well as configure the settings for our cloud patches, which I will show a little bit off of, which is going to allow you to collaborate and share code with each other. You can set that up to store the patch data on your own servers and your own AWS instances. So take some time, check that out. It's pretty useful stuff. But as I mentioned, the meat here for our service, Gitkraken.dev in preview is our focus view, our cloud patches, and you could do some workspace administration. So with that in mind, the focus view is centered around trying to reduce all of that cognitive load or signals coming from different places and pulling this in for people to have one place to check, to triage and understand, PRs that are assigned to them, issues that they might be working on, and bounce from here into our different tools. As you can see here, we group all of our focus view items into these buckets, which make it really useful, helpful to trying to understand at a high level what you might want to pay attention to next. Things can be in ready to merge or have unassigned reviewers, may have conflicts that need to be resolved. And from this view, you can bounce into and take action, even in some cases, on PRs that allow you to have merged them in. So you don't even have to go to GitHub. You don't even have to, manage it there. You can just have this list here. And if there's a really small PR that needs to get merged, you can do that right away. We're obviously planning to enhance some of these features and do these things really quickly. But in this particular case, there's a PR that needs my review that Jonathan created, and I'm going to go ahead and actually try to open it and view it in our system for being able to be worked on. So if I want to open this, I can open it in VS Code. I can open it directly on GitHub or in the GitKraken Client, and that's what we're going to do today. So if I open it in GitKraken, you can see it takes me here. It highlights the commit that I need to be checked out on, and I can work on it in the GitKraken Client. And if I want to get more granular, is typically, as I see a lot of devs do, I want to open it in VS Code. And right away, you can see the graph in VS Code. It will get opened. It will highlight this commit for me, and I can view the commit details. What's really helpful about this is it gets me right into a state where I can review the change. I can click view the diff and understand, yeah, this looks pretty good. It's more comfortable for me to have this available in VS Code to make it part of my workflow as I work on the IDE.
Hey, Jeff, sorry
yes.
to pause. Are you able to bump up the zoom here as well?
Try that. Yes. Give me 1 second.
Maybe a couple levels.
How's that? Because it's making it a little bit hard for me to see on my screen now. We'll try to make this as clear as I can. Is that at least better?
I think it is better.
Okay.
I think we can roll with it for now.
I'll try to do one more. In any case, it just is really helpful to have it in this context. I can see that this diff is available. I can, understand at a high level right here, start making changes. And if I wanted to, what's really helpful, because it's in my IDE and it's part of this, one of the things I can't do when reviewing on GitHub is suggest a change or make a recommendation on another file. So I could open this file right away simply by viewing it in the diff, and I can start making changes and amendments, for Jonathan here to suggest that change. But I can also really quickly include, let's just say I need to include another update on another file for this particular change. Hi, Jonathan. And this is all now something that I can pull in together. I can bring a file that is from outside of the file change set on the PR and open that as a cloud patch in our GitLens inspect. So you can see I have the commits available for staging. I can, make another commit and suggest that to the PR. Or if I get back into our GitLens view, I can make this change what we call a cloud patch. And what this does is it lets me offer suggestions. I can pull that file in from outside of the PR. And I can give it, a title, a patch for Jonathan. This patch lets me take those changes both from the PR diff and from the new file that, I added Jonathan to. I'm going to invite Jonathan to this particular patch. And if I go ahead and create that cloud patch, that patch will get shared with Jonathan, and he'll kind of show that off early in his CLI demo in a little bit. There we go. And you can see it was created. I can copy the link. I can go view it on Gitkraken.dev, and that's available for him to collaborate, pull that into his PR, and move forward in the collaboration process and that review process. So it's really pretty useful stuff. One thing I did want to mention as well was when we're talking about reviewing the PR in GitHub, we also have the browser extension from GitKraken, And this browser extension is free. You can install it. You get it as well as all of the other tools. And what this does in GitHub.com is,
Can you zoom in a little bit on this one?
Pump that up. The browser extension will allow you on GitHub, and also we support GitLab, Azure, and Bitbucket, give you some basic functionality within the scope of the PR or even with the repository to make and jump right into our tools with GitKraken. So if I want to, for that same PR, I can be looking at it here on GitHub. I can choose open it with GitKraken, which takes us to our interim deep link page. This can be configured to just be automatic and open whatever preferred tool you want. So I'm not going to do that now, but I can just choose to open this in VS Code. And then again, you can see that takes me right into this link where I could go through that process and make additional changes and work in the graph, work with Git for anything we need to do. So it's been pretty helpful. We are expanding upon that, and we have some exciting things planned in the future for it. And I believe with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to you, Jonathan, if that's okay. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks so much, Jeff. I see some questions rolling in. I think we'll have some time towards the end to get those. Again, a quick reminder, if you have questions that you would like Jeff or I to answer, please hop over to the Q&A widget in the bottom right of sessions, and you can post your question there or upvote questions that you want to see answered. So next is my demo. So this is for all our CLI users. If you have a favorite terminal that you like to use, or if you know someone in your life or on your team who prefers or feels very comfortable using the terminal, we wanted to show you the same workspace features that Jeff was showing off. A lot of what was going on with Focus View is based off the workspace feature. Well, that's available in your favorite terminal as well, thanks to the GitKraken CLI. So in case this is the first time you're hearing about it, if you go to gitkraken.com/CLI, we have some easy shortcuts here for you to either install it directly by running the command. I happen to be on Mac, so I have the brew install command, or you can download it straight from our GitHub README, our GitHub page. You could download it and also read up on the README. We have lots of cool documentation that goes into detail of all the commands that are available, but I'm going to highlight a few that I think are worth noting and kind of tie together into this idea of a more perfect handoff in your developer workflow. So I already have it up. I wanted to cross my fingers for the demo chaos spirits over here. So what you're looking at right here is the Hyper CLI, and what I've done is I've ran a command called gkfocus, and I just wanted to show it to you just so you can have an idea for what it will look like. I'm going to hit Q on my keyboard, and I will run the command gkfocus. So I'll hit enter, and so this is with the GitKraken CLI already installed on my machine. I've gone through the trouble of grouping my repositories together in what we call a workspace, and what you see on the screen right now, we're loading up the focus view, but you can see the shortcuts, the keyboard shortcuts that are available to you. So I've loaded up the focus view. We're looking at one of my workspaces, and I am looking at all of the issues and pull requests that span my repositories, all the repositories in my one workspace, all of the pull requests, issues, and whips are here for me to interact with. I'm using the arrow key on my keyboard to flip between either up and down, or to only look at my issues, to only look at my works in progress, or to view everything. And from this view, I can also use the keyboard shortcut P to pin PRs or issues here towards the top. So this is like a customizable and interactive list. And I think there's even a shortcut if you hit O. So touching on the theme of a more perfect handoff, if I hit O, it will open up in a different browser over here, but it'll open up a link to the pull request here in GitHub. So it's a nice way for me to easily transition from my terminal over to GitHub in case I want to continue the conversation here in a thread, or interact with it with certain actions. So that's just the focus view. Again, that's based off of a key feature we call workspaces, which are also available here in the GitKraken CLI. So again, I'm back in Hyper. Let me clear just a little bit just to clean this up a smidge. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a few commands here, because Workspaces allow you to perform batch commands, so you can perform an action on multiple repos at once. I'm going to show you how to perform a multi-fetch and a multi-pull. And I'll also talk about multi-clone, since that's a really good one for people who might be starting up on a project. But in any case, I'm going to run the command gk workspace list. And there is a shorthand version here. I could have easily typed GKWS list. That's a shorthand version of running this command. And what you're looking at is a list of all the workspaces that I have for this account. I have many. You may not have this many, but I have workspaces with 55 repos. I have some with 10. I have some with 7. The one that I'm working on is called Help Center. And so I want to look at all the repos that I have in this Help Center repo. So I happen to have Help Center set up as my default workspace. So when I run the command gkws info, I'll get information about all the workspaces that are in this repository. So sure enough, you can see here in the output at the bottom, I have this workspace is comprised of repositories that we use to write the documentation. So if you go to help.gitkraken.com, that's our help center, and we use markdown repositories to create the content that you see when you go to help.gitkraken.com. So I wish to perform a fetch on all of these repositories. This is one of the first batch commands I want to talk about. And so to do that, all I have to do is write the command gkws fetch. And I'll be presented with a question. The app will ask, hey, which repos do you want to fetch? So I'll use the up and down arrow keys to go between these and then hit spacebar to select them. I'm going to select all 3, hit enter, and I get 3 lovely check marks. The fetch has gone through. All of my repos have been fetched. And if I wanted to go a step further, I could use the command gk workspace, or in this case, gkws pull. And same thing, I'll be presented like, hey, which repos in this workspace do you want to pull? In this case, I want to select the GitLens, GitKraken Client, and Git integration for Jira repos, hit enter, check mark, check mark, check mark. The pull has gone through for all of these repos. So you can imagine if you have a workspace with way more repos, you can perform a batch action pretty nicely for your workspace. Okay, finally, I did want to tie it together. Jeff created a really nice patch for me, and one of the great things that you get, I ran the clear command just to clear the screen here, is that you can see any cloud patch that you create either from GitKraken Client, from GitLens, from Gitkraken.dev. You can even create one using the GitKraken CLI. But in my case, I just want to see all the patches that I have access to. So we support a command called gkpatch, and I'll run gkpatch list. And this will show me all the patches that I have access to. It's going to be a little bit gnarly, but you can see here, I don't know if you can see Jeff's name right here. So Jeff created a patch for Jonathan. I can click on this link to interact with the patch, but you can also interact with the patch using a command gkpatch view. So when I hit enter, it'll ask me, hey, these are all the patches that you have access to. Which one would you like to view? Now, this is where the demo spirits are going to get me. I did not do my homework and set a Git author or email address ahead of this time. So I'm going to hit enter and get an error message. But that's okay. When you do your homework and you have it all configured, you will be able to see the code. So you'll be able to see the diff of what was changed or what code was included in that patch file. And then you could then take steps to apply that patch. So I just wanted to bring that up. GitKraken CLI is here to let you work with your workspaces, group your repos together, and easily transition into GitHub. You can and hopefully do some cool things that were normally things that you could only do in GitKraken Client, but now you can pull them into your favorite terminal and hopefully save you some context switching. Okay, well, that's the end of my portion of the demo. I think, Jeremy, how are we looking on questions?
Good. It looks like you've got a few in the Q&A if you guys want to pop through and start going through those.
Yeah, there's one that came up that I saw that I'll address, and I'll actually run through a few of these. there's a question about having a store app, an iPhone app. We're actually in discussion about that now, but one thing I did not mention that I was going to, and I forgot, was that Gitkraken.dev can be installed as a PWA. So you can, from the browser, go ahead and just set that up either to run as a desktop mini app side by side to the client or VS Code or whatever you want, if you want that focus view available all the time. And you can also install that on your phone and work with that focus view, and even take some of those quick actions like I was showing, like merging a PR. Eventually we are going to add support for doing some basic review approval, that kind of thing, and you could do that right from your mobile device by having it installed as a PWA. So it is interesting and curious. If you have a moment, please post in chat why you might prefer a store app versus using a PWA. That's something that's being discussed, so I'd love to hear that type of feedback from you. There's a few other ones I saw that I think we should talk about. We did have a Cloud Patch deep dive earlier, I believe, Jeremy, but there are some questions about Cloud Patches and how they fit into the workflow. So just at a high level, we find that they can enhance the collaboration workflow for your PR review process by allowing you to change and make updates before you get into a PR state. So you could create a patch from just a work in progress in your diff. As I mentioned, one thing that GitHub doesn't allow you to do is suggest changes or offer code changes to the PR that are outside of the change set for that pull request. And we do find that, in some cases, developers don't have access to the PR, or they don't work on the repo a lot. So they might not want to clone that whole repo if they know they're not going to be working in it very frequently. So they could just offer quick code changes without having to go through a workflow, or sometimes even offer a PR on top of a PR where you get this stacking effect, and it can lead to some sort of some complications in that type of workflow.
If I can show that off real quick.
Sure.
So what exactly is a Cloud Patch? So I'm going to use the client for this example, but you can create a Cloud Patch off of any whip or any commit. And so right now I have a very simple whip. I just made a very brief change, but you should start to notice, especially if you're on the latest version, that we have like this little arrow icon. I'm going to bump up the zoom because I know how that can be. I'll use my mouse. It looks like I'm already maximized on zoom, but you can hit this arrow icon and you can convert this whip into a Cloud Patch. And you can set the permissions here. It's kind of like when you share a Google Doc or something like that. Do you want anyone with the link to be able to access this Cloud Patch? Would you like to restrict it to only people in your organization? Or do you want to restrict it to only certain people within your organization? So we do have multiple levels of security that are available. And if you only want to do this for yourself, we even have people who just do it to create like cloud stashes of sorts. But when you create a Cloud Patch, and I'll just do anyone with the link, and we'll call this the March workshop. I'll create the Cloud Patch, and it'll be available here in the left panel. All of the Cloud Patches you create will be available here. You can copy the link just by going to the ... And the cool thing about what Jeff was showing earlier is that Gitkraken.dev, all of those Cloud Patches are available from there as well. If you just want to open up a browser window, any of the surfaces that I was showing you earlier, GitLens or the GitKraken CLI, you can access your Cloud Patches from there. So it's a really cool way of sharing code, and you can secure it down to just who you want to see it, even if it's just for yourself. Okay.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Yeah.
There's a really quick question I can answer about the browser extension. Some people are asking about Opera support. You are correct. We do not support Opera at the moment. That is on our plan. But yeah, we have Chrome, Edge, and Firefox support. So those of you with Opera, hang tight, and possibly be reaching out to you for testing. So if that's okay. Yeah, that's a great question, and thank you for bringing that up. There is a Jira integration. Looks like one of the most recent ones posted. We do accept Jira integrations if you go to Gitkraken.dev and are trying to use the focus view. If you want issue access, yes, we pull in the issues from GitHub or GitLab, but there is an individual connection for Jira to pull in issues from Jira as well, so you can kick off those workflows with your Jira issues right from that view, and even sometimes change status or assignee as we roll that support out as well. And yes, Azure DevOps, everything that you can log in with today for GitKraken accounts, Azure, Bitbucket, GitLab, GitHub, all supported in that view.
Excellent. All right, and we've reached the bottom of the hour. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, chat, for being so interactive. Really appreciate that, all the questions that came through. This concludes our March workshop. We do hope to bring another workshop to you very soon, very close in the future, so be on the lookout for our next topic. We accept, if you want, after you leave this session, if you have feedback about topics you want to see in the future, let us know. We'd be happy to consider all requests. Otherwise, I think we can move to adjourn. Thanks so much, everyone.